Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mystery Theory. If you're wondering why I'm whispering, it's gonna be a whispered video until the end. Just read the title. And if you're here for my content, or if you're new in the channel, welcome. I hope you find this case interesting. You guys know I don't like to say enjoy the video. I literally think that no matter how much true crime cases you consume, I can assure you that you do not enjoy this. It just triggers a part of your brain that makes it interesting, that gets you thinking. So if you want more content like this, I would encourage you to subscribe and rate this video so that way more people can actually find it. And some are gonna ask, why the F are you whispering? Yes, I got quite a few comments like those this week, so I have them very fresh in my mind. But it will also be found by people who's looking for this kind of ASMR true crime thing community. Also, if you want extra content, I will have a new video for Patreon tomorrow. It's gonna be an interesting one and kind of recent updates to it. So I encourage you to visit if you want, if you can. If not, as always, no hard feelings. Today I wanted to be in front of the camera, but things didn't work out this week. I'm not going to tell you a story because we need a violin and that would kind of ruin the whole thing. But trust me when I tell you, I am recording this in utility closet where I volunteer for the school district. Yeah, not during volunteering hours, of course. It is super early, and we're having a major storm here in the Pacific Northwest. Rain, wind, gusts of 65 miles per hour. Everything is flying. I had to keep most of the animals inside. So I thought, this closet looks like a quiet place. Hopefully not like the movie, but you get me. Now, 3 minutes later, I'm gonna start with a case. I'll probably put some kind of stamp down below, so not everyone has to endure my rambling. But today's case is gonna take us to Colorado Springs, Colorado. It actually happened there, but I'm gonna introduce you to Lorraine Larrabell, who was born on October 17th, 1967 in Columbus, Ohio. Never been to Ohio. When she was 9 years old, in the year 1976, her family moved to Security, Colorado, which is south of Denver and near Colorado Springs, like super close. Been to Denver, been to Colorado Springs. Beautiful. Some similarities to Utah, but some other things that they take your breath away, especially in the winter time. I worked there for a few years, and the drive from Utah to Colorado was no fun. But enough about that. Let's fast forward to the year 1991, when she was 24 years old, and what I would consider a tiny girl with only 115 pounds and 5'5". She was described as feisty but fun. She loved to go out dancing, spend time at her local she was also super good at calling to let her sister and mother know. She had a younger, I think he was between 3 and 4 years old. I don't remember, I didn't write it down. And she would make arrangements for her son. And as a single mom, sometimes she would leave him with a babysitter, and then the sister would pick him up, or you know how that works. So she was super dependable in that sense. She would plan things ahead, and she would communicate with people, even if she decided to stay out for a few days. What do people know in a few days blows my mind. Maybe I'm an introvert that much, but I think after going dancing or, to a bar, I'd be so toasted at the end of the night that I want my bed to go and crash. But that's just me. I don't know if you are that kind of person that parties and, for days. Tell me in the comments down below, what do you do? Because I am genuinely curious. Now, on December 19th, 1991, was a Thursday, and Lorraine was at her boyfriend's house. Our boyfriend's name was Jerome Harden, who at the time was in the army, but he was living off base in this apartment where they were at that night. There was also Lorraine's sister, Robin, and her boyfriend, Anthony. Anthony was from Trinidad. He was 20 years old, and he was stationed in Fort Carson, but was discharged that fall and now was working. They were hanging out, having a good time, drinking, talking, and then Lorraine came up with the idea of going out. Always happens, right? She wanted to go to something local. I think it was a few blocks away from Jerome's house where they were at. And it was a bar called Bumper's Lunch, where people would go for drinks and dancing and overall having a good time. Lorraine had the night off after dropping off her son at the babysitter's house. Oh, here is my note. Yeah, he was 4 years old at the time. However, her boyfriend's sister and the sister's boyfriend, I am confusing myself with all the sisters and the boyfriends, but basically everyone but her wanted to stay. The next morning they had to go to work, so nobody was up to it. Lorraine, being the little feisty girl that she was, she kind of argued with them and to try to calm things down. Anthony, her sister's boyfriend, says, "You know what? Come on, I'll take you. We're not gonna go, but I'll take you." Now, I don't understand that if it was only a few blocks away, but okay. Lorraine wasn't good with a no for an answer, so even though her boyfriend didn't want her to go, she left. Even after Jerome said, "If you go, we're done." So according to Anthony, he drove her there. She was agitated, upset, and drunk, and made a scene even in the car ride. But he's like, "Get out of my car," drops her off, and goes back to the apartment, not before stopping to buy cigarettes at the liquor store. Then he gets sound suspicious, but I have somebody in my family that's like that. And at this point, not my kids or my husband or anything like that, but in the family. So at this point, we just laugh, because the other option is getting mad at her for being mad at us, and they don't mean it. I don't know, maybe they're just excuses, but I totally get why they were laughing about the situation. The next morning, Lorraine doesn't pick up her son. She doesn't call her sister or her mother to go get the boy. And it wasn't uncommon, I guess. I don't know if one of them picked him up anyway. But by December 21st, Robin, her sister, is reporting her as missing. When she went to the police, she mentioned that it was, somewhat normal for her to be out of all night and sometimes a few days. But it wasn't normal for her to not communicate with anybody while she was away or planning to be away. Well, the police starts at the bar. I mean, somebody must have seen her, right? They investigated, and it was kind of hard for the police to come up with something, because nobody could confirm that Lorraine was there. Nobody that was there that night, and no, not even the employees were able to do that. Not because, they didn't know her, but because she was such a regular that they didn't remember if they saw her that night or not. They knew she was there several nights of the week, but that particular one they couldn't remember. So it was hard for the police to move on from something, or the last place that they knew where she was. Big crowds, people drinking, the regular place. I mean, these things were not helping. So they decided to expand the search to the entire county, which is, the typical comparison, the size of Rhode Island. I feel bad about Rhode Island. It's always portrayed as such a small state, because it is. Flyers everywhere searching for Lorraine, her family, friends, volunteers. So they go back to Anthony. Remember, the quote-unquote brother-in-law, the boyfriend of the sister. The last person to see Lorraine that night. He tells them, to the police, what Robin told the police initially, that he offered Lorraine to take her to the bar to stop the argument. He tells the police about Lorraine's car drama. He mentions that she even punched him in the arm, shoulder area. And he said he told her to get out of his car, and watched as she walked into the bar. Again, he bought the cigarettes, went back to the apartment, and then told everyone about what happened. I mean, by now it was the new year, and nothing. They had no suspects. But one day, Lorraine's sister, Robin, goes back to the station and starts telling the investigators about her sister's troubled relationship with Jerome. Apparently, Jerome was not so into Lorraine, but Lorraine was very into Jerome. So they were fighting a lot. She wanted to stay together, Jerome not so much. It seemed like he wanted to break things off. And she mentioned to the police that they stayed that night until 11 p.m. and then they left, leaving Jerome with no alibi police that he said once, if Lorraine is dead in a ditch somewhere, she had it coming. He didn't say it that night, but he said it at some point. And I'm sure that that's one of those things, the stupid things that you say when you are afraid that somebody is going to get hurt because they're not making good decisions. But it could have meant that he was gonna do it. I just think that at the point where they were in their relationship, I think Jerome was kind of fed up with her partying, which, she was entitled to it. But I think he just said that out of, she parties, she stays out. I don't know, I feel like that's the kind of thing that people say when they don't agree with what other people is doing with their lives. That's my thought when I heard that. But to Robin, it meant that he probably did it. The police check Jerome's background, and they find a few bad habits. He was in fact in the military, and when they go talk to him, he moved out and no longer lives there, which makes it very interesting. So the police went to the Army's Criminal Investigation Unit, and they said he was deployed to Irwin, California, and that this was a planned thing, so he already knew he was gonna leave that apartment. So the police goes or send somebody to California. Not sure how the deal went, but they go and they try to talk to him, and he said, well, listen, I had nothing to do with her disappearance, and it seems like he's a pretty straightforward kind of guy, and he even said that he was trying to break things up with her, and that she didn't want to, and that, he was not into her. Everything checked out until 11 p.m. that night, when he was left alone. A month after her disappearance, a lady that was jogging with her dog, who was not on a leash, she had a big dog, and they were at the Sand Creek area, which is 2 miles away from the bar. My computer fan, it's being super loud, I'm sorry. And my screen turns off every 2 seconds because there is something going on, and it goes to sleep every so many seconds, and sometimes doesn't want to get up. So anyways, she goes, and when she checks what her dog was sniffing, she finds a dead body. This place, you should know that a lot of people take their own lives there, and so it wasn't uncommon. Oh my goodness, that sounds terrible. I wouldn't jog there. I remember a long time ago, somebody was working in this hotel, and were like, do you want to go work with me? And I'm like, no thank you, that's the worst thing ever. No, I mean, if you do it, props to you, but I'm always scared that, you're gonna have to go check a room after checkout or something, and there's gonna be something terrible there. Maybe just a weird freak in me thinks about those things. But anyways, this body was between 2 large pieces of cement because the city encouraged construction companies to go drop things there to build a retaining wall. So all the things that they wanted to get rid of, like old cement that they were breaking or whatever, they would, drop it there. So she was between 2 large pieces of cement. The body was bruised very, very badly, and it seemed like she actually fell there. It seemed like also she's been there for a while. She was only wearing a shirt and a bra, and she had no ID on her. She was taken and the coroner established that she didn't fall, that somebody pushed her. so it was drivable. And by that time, the only one that they could think of was Anthony, who was the one who had the car, and who was the one who was driving around with Lorraine. So they decide to bring Anthony for questioning again, hoping they would mess up and lie, and that they could get a confession out of him because they had zero evidence. And he actually stumbled in his words and kind of changed the story just a tiny bit. He forgot to say that they were fighting that night, Jerome and Lorraine. And the police kind of tell him, well, you said that they were fighting the night before. I have the notes here. And this guy, Anthony, said, well, the officer must have taken my statement wrong. He had it wrong. I never said that. And that's when they knew he was lying. I mean, police do this for a living, and they know that they must be precise. So they brought in Jerome and Anthony, and they kind of were in between both of them. It must have been one of them to the police. But the police, before bringing in Anthony, they kind of check the timeline. So they left the house or the apartment at 9 p.m. Anthony and Lorraine. She was a little drunk. He goes and drops her off at the bar, then stops to buy cigarettes, and then he goes back to the apartment. When the police did this route, it only took them 17 minutes. But to Anthony, the trip took him an hour. He actually made it back to the apartment at 10 p.m. And that's plenty of time to murder somebody, really. So they had the wonderful idea to bring them both in, and they tried to blame it on Jerome. Jerome had a temper. I'm sure he still does. Or maybe, he grew out of it, even though he was old, but you know what I mean. So he was kind of yelling back at the police, saying, I didn't do it. I would never do that. And, he was defending himself. And Anthony was like, being the quiet boy, like, oh, finally, they got somebody. I'm gonna stay quiet and look cute in this corner. But at that point, the police say to Jerome, no, you can go. And the police start messing with Anthony, and they said that they needed some biological fluids from him, and that they were going to match it with something that they had. It's, they ask for a polygraph, and he starts kind of doubting himself, and he asks, am I in big trouble? He's upset, he's crying, and he said that he tells them what really happened that night. He said that he never dropped her off at the bar, but instead they drove to that remote area to talk. He said that Lorraine wanted to be intimate with him, and she started to remove her clothes and got out of the car. He got out of the car, and they started arguing. He asked her to put her clothes back on, that they couldn't do that he was dating her sister. He said that she got so angry that she punched him really hard. I don't know how you can punch a big guy like you so hard. But he decided to punch her back in the face, and that is when she fell over the edge. Now, she looked dead, so he left. I'm like, really? Really? She looked dead, so you left? course. I believe it was an accident. I believe he got scared. But it goes beyond me is to understand why not call for help. In the autopsy, it wasn't revealed if she died immediately. I doubt it. I mean, yeah, rupture is plain. It's kind of a big deal, and that was not the only thing that she ruptured. But it breaks my heart to know that if this was in fact a crime of passion, an accident, that you cannot come to your senses and say, oh my God, what did I just do? I didn't mean this. Just go there, stay with her, try to wake her up, call 911. You're not in the middle of the desert or the country, or you have a cell signal. You have the ability to at least this guy went back and lied to Lorraine's sister, to her face. He lied to her family. He stayed at vigils. He helped look for Lorraine. I think he did it because he didn't want to get caught. I don't think he did it because he was a psychopath or a sociopath or anything like that. But it's somebody else's life, You can't just mess with that. Oh my goodness, I crashed the car and now is in a river somewhere. Okay, that's a different story. But it's a human life. How can you be so scared that you don't take the time to find out if she's alive? A lot of people mention her party life and she wanted to be intimate with the guy, which in this case I don't doubt it. It seemed like she was taking her clothes off. I don't know. Maybe they planned it ahead. Maybe they were having some kind of a relationship on the side. Maybe it was a drunk moment that she had. We cannot judge her character, but this is about her case and what happened to her. And I don't care how much people believe in karma, which I believe in karma, but in this kind of cases, I can't let my mind go there because it's not fair, It's just not fair. It's a human life. That's a basic right. Your right to be alive. And for somebody to just I don't know. It just breaks my heart. It breaks my heart to leave you there. Yeah, he punched her in the face. Yeah, I totally get it. That's assault. But he ended up murdering her. I'm sorry, it's manslaughter, but that's murder too. And this kind of thing happens around the world every single day. Because we're humans and because it just happens. Such a terrible story. He got out in 3 years. I kind of feel like he should have stayed at 6. Because, again, that was taking somebody's life. But at the same time, I truly don't think he meant to. Sometimes you make so many bad decisions that lead you to a terrible, big, bad decision that changes your life forever. That's why taking small steps and trying to make the right decision for you and for those around you would usually lead you away from this kind of situations. But if yourself in this kind of situation? It kind of depends on the kind of person you are. You made a mistake. Do you own up? Do you call for help? Or you try to forget? I just couldn't live with my life if I had to, if I made that terrible decision. I hope he finds it in himself to. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if he learned his lesson. But, you know, it costed a life. It cost. Just terrible. So let me know what you think.